Alright everybody, welcome back to another hero tutorial. Today is a very special one. It's kind of one that it's constantly being asked of me, of other leaders in our group, and that is the infamous question of how do I get stronger? Now there's going to be many tips and advice out there on how to become stronger. And today we're going to kind of go over the basics of what the game essentially allows for you as a free-to-play player, as well as a little bit of investment if you're a pay-to-play player. So without further ado, let's get into it. First and foremost, what we're going to talk about today is all the aspects of what makes an account stronger, or makes you stronger. In terms of we're going to look at your squads and the heroes themselves, and we're going to explain the symbols, the gear, and their skills. Then we'll move on to your drone, and that'll be your combat chips and your skill chips. And then we'll move on to tech, and then we'll look into certain techs that make all your squad stronger and specific squad stronger, specific heroes stronger, and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, we're going to actually move on to builds and certain buildings that can make you stronger. And then from there, we'll go on to what I like to say is like the biggest slept on factor is your decor, and how there's going to be specific decor that's better than the other, and how to essentially level those up in the most efficient way possible. And then we're going to look at the optimized setup for the basic player, and then from there we're going to move on to the optimized setup for more advanced players, and then the difference between essentially a PvE setup and a PvP setup. PvE being player versus environment, so your squad versus zombies, doom elites, strongholds, etc. And then PvP being player versus player, you against another enemy and another base, another real life player. And then from that, we're going to touch on a bit of the meta squads and what makes them the best in terms of PvP meta. And these squads are sort of a end goal squad at this point in time. From that, we're going to move on to season specific, specifically season 5, and the certain buildings that you will have the chance to unlock and upgrade in order to get those boosts. And then from there, we're going to actually talk about tactic cards, and with that we're going to talk about a few tactic cards in terms of which one I would suggest to run as your best cards in terms of PvE and PvP, and then do a little quick rundown on that. And then to wrap it all off, we're going to be looking at a wanted boss lineup, and subsequently that will work for the rampage boss. And the reason for that is hitting certain goal markers will grant you rewards if you were to successfully surpass certain milestone markers. And it's a great way to see how strong your squad is if you want to test it out. So with that explanation out of the way, let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is talk about heroes. As you can see, we have a plethora of heroes. As always, you will have your gold, purple, and blue tier heroes. Focus on your golds, except for certain heroes that become UR/gold during the seasons. But for the most part, your gold heroes are the heroes you want to be working with no matter what. And as you can see here, all these different heroes have different symbols at the top left of their player card. And essentially what this means is that players with the shield icon are heroes that absorb damage. They have the highest defense and the highest health pool. And these players, or these heroes here rather, are typically heroes that you want to put in the front of your formation. Moving on to your damage dealers, also known as your DPS, your damage per second. These heroes here are essentially the heroes that deal damage. And these heroes will have a higher attack but lower defensive and health stats, And of course, we're talking about base stats. The medic icon are known as support heroes. So your Marshall, your Sarah, they are support heroes. And the medic icon is a little bit deceiving, but if you look at support from other video games, like I play Overwatch, support heroes, they provide health and defensive boosts, but they also do an amplification of other heroes. So Marshall himself isn't terribly strong, but what he does is he has a skill ability that actually amplifies the damage of his team. But we'll get into that a little bit more later with the skills section. In terms of your gear, if we're looking at a DPS character, so a character who does damage, your main focus is to get this left side high. If you haven't already hit level 40s with your gold gear, this is what you want to focus on. And yes, there are certain heroes that you want to do things more for, but if you happen to, these can be swapped, so it doesn't really matter too much. So what you want to do is you want to get the left side for your damage characters. And if we go over to my tank, you want to get your tank, your shield icon characters to a high gear level on the right hand side. And this is of course because these ones here are your damage mitigators. They reduce incoming damage, they increase the health, they increase your defensive stats and all that kind of stuff, whereas the left side boosts your attack, boosts your crit rates, boosts your critical damages and things of that nature. As for your support characters, there's a pretty heavy divide on which one you should be working on. In my opinion, I believe the radar and the chip are the best options for your support heroes. It keeps them alive, it lets them boost their damage, but keeping these guys alive helps your team as a whole, as you can see with his skill here, where he increases all your units attack by 17.4% and crit rate by 10% for 8 seconds after the first use. And then exclusive weapons obviously will change how skills work, but these heroes like Marshall essentially amplify damage output, they amplify damage reduction and things like that. Moving on to the skills specifically, there is a bit of a pecking order on how you want to do things, and that is essentially, now as you can see here, this is essentially the priority for each hero. For your shield type heroes, you want to be upgrading the top right first, then you're going to move on to bottom left, and then your top left. With your damage dealing heroes, the explosive icon heroes, you want to do top right, top left, and bottom left. For your support heroes, it'll be bottom left, top right, top left. Now, with this, it is a bit confusing. The best order of business to do these things is to upgrade things in tens. So like with your gear, you want to hit those level 10s, level 20s, level 30s, then your level 40s. Same thing with the skills. I recommend doing, if you're doing the top right, you want to go to level 10, to level 10, and then to level 10. There is a bit of a pecking order, but for the sake of simplicity, this is the easiest way to do things. Once you get these to level 10, you can move on to your damage dealing heroes. You can do 10, 10, 10, and then the same thing with your supports, 10, 10, 10. And then you can come back and start going again. Go to 20, go to 20, go to 20, moving down the line, 20, 20, 20, moving down the line once more, 20, 20, 20. So with that being said, there are skills that are better than others. For example, for Marshall, here we go. This skill here is definitely a better skill to have than, say, like this one, as this one boosts the entire team. Adam is a hidden gem, where his skill, this one here, where during the battle reduces all damage taken by your front row units by 13.3%, and then subsequent increases as you upgrade that. These skills are really, really useful in PvP senses, as they can reduce incoming damage reduction, which you can think of as making your opponent weaker some attack skills are better than others for sure, and typically it runs that same order of top right, top left, bottom left type of thing. I don't remember it off by head. I'm just so used to doing things. So I do apologize if I got that wrong, but you can refer to that picture that I have posted there. But essentially there are some things that are better than others. These top two are basically a priority focus no matter which heroes you are looking at, but don't slack too much on other skills. Like, don't get this one to 40 and then this one's only at 10 and this one's at 10 type of thing. Try and do things a little bit more balanced. If you want to do like a split, I would recommend maybe like a 60-40 split, instead of doing 50-50s or 100% 90-10 type of thing. A 60-40 split is pretty good. It keeps everything kind of cohesive in that sense. That brings us to the next power booster, which is your drone. Drone is a heavily slept on power boost. However, it's probably one of the most difficult things to upgrade. As you can see here, we're at 183, so it's a little bit easier for me where I just need 160 per tick. However, that's on every single level. Up until I believe it's 150, you're looking at, I think it was somewhere around like 600, 6,000. I can't remember exactly, but when you're early on, you hit your certain milestones where you need drone parts, which are these cogs or gears, rockets, whatever you want to call them. These drone parts are used for every milestone marker of your drone, and then your battle XP here is used for the in-betweens. This is a very difficult one to upgrade, but if you get the chance to upgrade this one, I highly recommend putting a little bit of effort into it, as this does give you a nice overall boost, as shown here, and how it boosts your squad's attack, health, and defense. Moving on to drone components, this one again, it's basically just an open a chest, upgrade as you go, and then subsequently you will upgrade these as you down the line. And then each one has a certain attribute to it, boosting your crit damage, boosting your crit rate, boosting your health, boosting your damage, all that kind of stuff. Now your combat boost one is a little bit of a tricky one. We're on day 1 here of Versus, so I can open a chest if I have any. I do not. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to open these skill chip chests on your drone radar day for Versus, and then you will do your quick add here, and it'll auto populate this little box here, at which time you'll hit promote. If you have spare gold chips, don't worry, these will not auto populate. Gold chips cannot be used in your combat boost. This will be things that are your purple gears or certain specific like combat little chips that you can't use anywhere else but here, as well as some combat boost XP will auto populate here. Once you hit certain level milestones, it'll unlock the skill chip setup. And again, in order you want to work on your, I highly recommend doing a 1, 2, 3, 4, and this has been sort of a advice I got really early on, so that may have changed, but typically I start from the top, middle, left, right, and ascend them in that order. And as you move down the line, you're going to want to make sure that these are all one chipset type. So these are all tank, these are all heli, and these are all missile. And then your fourth one, when you unlock, I think for hitting level combat boost level 450, yeah, you unlock a fourth one, and this will go into your fourth squad. I don't really touch this one too much. It's my gather squad. I don't care too much, but essentially you can go ahead and mix this one up, as you will have a mixed set here, and then it'll boost however is the setup here. Quick bit of advice here: if this is your tank squad and these are heli chips, they will not affect your squad. So please ensure that if you're running an all tank squad, that you have all tank chips, because if you start putting the heli chip into this one, you do not get the attributes of this. Tank for tank, heli for heli, missile for missile, and don't deviate from that. From there, we're going to move on to probably, I would say that this is a area where every single person can agree on as far as boosting power, and that is your tech. And take a look at your tech trees here. The biggest areas to focus on, especially if you haven't done so already, is your special forces. Special forces unlock your T10s, which are the stronger units until you can get it all the way up to T11s, which, by the way, the T11 grind is insane. As some of you may know, Huntress is at that point. However, to unlock them fully, you need 200 armament cores after you 100% all 4 stages of armament. So it is a bit of a grind. Until that happens, when you're saving for that, focus on your tech. But anyways, special forces is probably one of the best. The best way to ascertain the T10s is to work your way until you can focus on this bottom tree here. These top ones do not need to be completed for T10s. So the moment you can start doing the first tech branch, and then move on to this one, this one, this one, this one, or not this one, you know what I mean? This one here will be fully upgradable before these are maxed. So if you come down here and finish this up, you will unlock your T10s. Then you can go back and start maxing out all of these, as these will boost the attributes of your units. Going into it, units here as well, this tech tree will also boost the strength of your units and your troops. Going down the line, again, we have attack, health, and defense. And then obviously I kind of left the load capacity because my resources are better spent elsewhere. And while we're here, actually, the best bit of advice that I've been given is if you need to figure out which one of these 3 to prioritize first, your first list of priority is attack, and then you want to do your health and then your defense. And that kind of goes with everything. If you have the option of doing an upgrade for one of those, it is recommended to do that in that order: is your attack, health, and then defense. In terms of having longer tech going, this hero tech tree is actually very much a long-term investment for very high gain, especially when you start to make it down to these captain hats down here and you start working on these. I think I'm at like 24 days, and that's no buff, no co-op research, nothing. I think I can get it down to about 12 days if I use all the buffs that I can. But again, these tech here are arguably probably one of the best techs for all squad boosts. They are a bit of an investment, as you guys can see here. We're looking at 208 iron, 626 gold, 208 food, and then of course the time investment. However, if you have the opportunity and the resources to do these ones, this is a really good place to start with. Moving on down to your masteries. Once you start getting, or once you're able to, you want to be working on your masteries. Focus on your number 1 squad, which for the most part here in Hero, a lot of us are running a tank squad. So you want to be focusing on that tech tree, but don't let these lag behind, because in total, to unlock the tactical weapon tech, you need 180%, which is these 3 masteries combined. As you can see here, I am getting fairly close. I neglected these for a little bit because I was trying to upgrade to HQ 35, which probably wasn't the best, but I also had so much XP that I was trying to burn. So I made the decision to do that and slacked on these a bit. So now we're a little bit behind on these, but we're getting there. But again, yeah, don't let these sit idle. Make sure you got these ones going. Again, these are specific to tank heroes, specific to missile heroes, specific to aircraft heroes, as it displays. But these are really good for boosting those certain heroes. If you are short on tech, short on resources rather, but you want to keep tech going, these 3 here are really good. You only get squad 4 if you pay for the monthly pass, the VIP pass, but these 3 are fairly cheap. Bit of a grind, but you don't need every single tech thing. As you can see here, I maxed out the bottom half, as these ones directly relate to your squads. So for example, your squad 1 tech is related to your squad 1 parking space. Squad 2 is directly related to your squad 2 parking space. Squad 3 for squad 3, squad 4 for squad 4. The other option that you can do is, if you are lacking on resources, is focus on this tree a little bit. Again, these are fairly cheap resources and fairly quick, but these will help you gather more resources within your base. And then with these ones here, these tiles up in the top left that I have will give you a 10% output on the food, iron, and gold. And then these ones here increase the gathering speed of resource tiles, which this game relies on those resources. And then as you go down the line, things like oil become a very, very, very tough resource to hoard, especially once you hit the higher levels, higher HQ levels rather. In terms of these 2 here, siege to seize and defense fortifications, there's not too many people that I know that boost these ones that high. For this one here, we boosted it enough to get the drill grounds, and then just kind of we just did the 1 drill ground capacity increase. But again, this one here is just for PvP, attacking bases and stuff like that. This one is probably a really good one to try to get to, the extra drill ground. Hold more troops are always needed. In terms of defense fortification, the big one here is this one, where if you don't have troops on your wall and you get attacked, you lose troops that are in your drill ground. However, maxing out techs like this one reduces the losses of those troops in your drill ground, which is very, very big. I believe if you don't have this buff, or have this tech rather, it's around 600 troops lost per base hit. And then as you go down the line, I think right now I'm at about 312 troops lost per hit, which doesn't seem like much, but it's enough to get me back in the fight or keep me in a fight. So that brings us to something that it's quite the investment, but it's definitely necessary, especially as a prerequisite for HQ upgrades, and that is your buildings. So there's 3 specific buildings that can help you boost your power, and that is these 3 back here: your tank center, your heli center, and your missile center. Now, specifically, if we look at heli center here, as you can see up here, what increasing these centers do increases your march size, which means per squad how much troops you can take with you. The more troops that you can carry, the stronger your power. And then subsequently it increases your aircraft hero HP, attack, and defense by this amount here. Left side being what it's currently at, right side being what it can be on the next upgrade. As you may have noticed here, I have this one maxed out, this one is catching up, and then this one is at level 33. These are required. One of them is required in order to upgrade your base. As you can see, I'm maxed at 35 right now, but you will need these. So the priority would be to upgrade whichever one is your main squad. If you're a tank main, upgrade your tank one. If you're a heli main, upgrade your heli one. If you're a missile main, upgrade your missile. However, don't let these slack. As you guys can see, it is a bit of an investment. However, this is a really great way to boost your hero specific squads. On the topic of buildings, we're going to move into this one here, your honorable campaign. As you can see, this power down here, it goes based off troop count. Now, I actually took a bit of a reduction in troop count because I'm running a mixed squad, so one of the heroes takes a few troops less, so it's a little bit lower. But this here, you can actually see how much power your units have, your troops have. And then every day at reset, just hit challenge boss, start, and let this auto run. It'll complete challenges. It'll complete challenges. I can see I have one right here. Go ahead and claim that, and it'll fill with challenges as it goes on. But this is a great way for free resources, as well as to see how strong your troops are. We're coming up on day 2 of Versus in a few hours here, so this will be where we look at the Armament Institute. And the Armament Institute is where you're training for your T11s. As you guys can see here, I have the first 3 sections done, and I am just about halfway on the final one. These here are a little bit tricky because you need these ones here, which is your Armament core, and these ones here are acquired through the honorable campaign area, or if you're a pay to play, you can buy them. However, you need to have barracks 35 in order to train T11, so if you're not at that point yet, don't rush this one. You can have by the time you get HQ 35 and barracks 35, this one will be at the same pace, if not slightly behind, or possibly slightly ahead. But this one isn't that big of a rush until you hit level 35, barracks 35. But this one here will be a really good boost for the higher level end players. On the topic of building, something that I didn't write down on the board is your gorilla, your overlord. Very straightforward. You're going to be promoting with this screen here, and it gives you your overlord HP, attack, and defense in both in numbers and in percentages. You're going to have your skill list here, and I will throw up a picture because I personally don't have this memorized. I have very little IQ, but I'll throw up a skill priority picture here, and it'll show you which skills to upgrade in certain priorities. Again, there is a priority order, but don't let them slack too far behind. This screen here is your training screen. So this one is your bond rating. The higher the bond rating, the better. As with everything in this game, the higher the level, the better. But again, this just boosts your Overlord's attack, defense, HP, and his resistance, and increases his troop size. The Overlord himself does carry his own troops with him. These ones here, again, same thing, attack, defense, and health. And if you notice, I do follow the attack, health, and defense promotion tier list. I'm boosting the attack, boosting the health, and boosting the defense at a probably 60, 25, 15 type ratio. Maybe not that severe, but you get what I mean. In priority 1, 2, and 3. This now brings me to one of the most hidden power boosts in the game. It is an investment. If you're a pay-to-play player, it becomes easier. If you're free to play, there are a few ways to ascertain more of this. However, it is a very, very difficult grind, but if you can do it, it pays off in dividends, and that is Decor. There's a bunch of different decorations that you can get and subsequently upgrade. Focus on the UR ones. SSR and SRs, don't worry too much. These ones here you get free from certain events. You get them free in your sleighs. You can plunder them from trucks. These ones aren't a big deal. These ones here are definitely a investment, but highly, highly, highly worth it. We just had the decorate your dream decorate event, or whatever it is, the Decor event, and if you're a pay to play, definitely invest in that, as you can start getting more of these decors. In typical fashion, you want to be upgrading things to the same level and then prioritize. The biggest piece of advice that I got was get things to level 3. Get things to level 3 using the specific decorations, because it's fairly cheap to get from level 1 to even to level 4, but basically from level 1 to 3 you want to use those. Once you start getting into higher tiers, you can use your universal decoration components. However, there is a tier order, and I believe I have it posted here in my moments. Perfect. There is a tier order. Your main focus should be damage reduction. That's this top row up here. Decor like this, damage reduction. The term damage reduction you can think of as making your opponent weaker. Okay, so that's why these are very highly coveted and very useful decor. Moving down the list here, we have skill damage and march size. These ones, they boost your skill damage by, I think it's like 1%, 1.5%. And then the God of Judgment here is, I think, the only one that increases how many troops your squad carries, your march size. Again, more troops, more better. Moving down the line, not as priority, but still in the same category as your A+ tier is your crit damage. Crit damage is great, but it's based on your crit rate. If you're hitting 1% crits, or sorry, if you're hitting, let's say 16% crit damage, but you're only hitting criticals every 1%, then it's ineffective. That's why it comes down here. But these are really, really good decor as well. Not as great as these two, but not terrible bad. And then you get your hero stat boost, which is like attack boost or your defense boost or your health boost. These aren't as important. These typically, some of these you can get for free in the gold chest. They're not that important. And then your C tier, and then your C tier are things that you can get for free. And then some of them are earned through 3v3 versus arena. Again, not worthwhile to invest in. Focus on these top two for sure, and then you can subsequently move down to your third tier. This is up in my moments. If you guys are in my alliance, feel free to check that out. If not, it's on the screen here. Take a screenshot, do whatever you want. We don't talk about economy ones because I don't care. Boosts construction speed, boosts gold output, and then boosts task something. That's how little I give a shit. I can't even remember what it does. These are seasonal ones that you get throughout the season, but they're not worth investing anything into. Even if you guys are gold short on you're short on gold, it's still not worth upgrading the Lucky Cat. With all of that being said, we are now going to take a look at the optimized early setups for your formation. This right here is your basic tank setup. Right? You have your two shield icons in the front, and then your damage and supports in the back. You can play around where you put these people in the back, but typically somewhere in this order is great. Somewhere like this is fine. Whatever works. Same thing with your heli squad. You want something like this. We have your shield icons in the front, support and DPS in the back. Same thing with your missiles. You want your DPS in the back, shield icons in the front. Pretty straightforward. These heroes up here reduce damage. These heroes back here attack. They do damage. However, I'm at a point where I am running what's known as meta setups. Meta setups. These specific meta setups are based on a tactic card, which I'll go into a little bit later. However, right now, the time of filming this is the best setup for PvP. Scarlet has really good skills, which amplify damage and protection. Adam amplifies protection. Murphy amplifies protection. Marshall amplifies damage, and then Kim is a damage dealer. This setup only works if Kim has all mythic gear. That's why I run this setup. I only recommend this if you have maxed out skills and maxed out mythics and high skills as well for Kim. And in this setup, I give Scarlet good attack and defensive gear because her attack skills are very, very good. Moving on to your heli squad, again, this is your basic one. This is kind of my third squad, so it doesn't really matter too much to me on this one. But the meta setup for the heli squad, I'll find a picture and I'll post it up here. And this will be the meta setup for that. During the off season, I was working on my missile squad quite a bit. However, this right here is the meta setup for the missile squad enthusiasts, where you have your Tesla, McGregor front, Swift, Lucius, and Fiona in the back. Lucius, if his exclusive weapon is high enough, this works really, really well. I took these squads into Desert Storm last week and I had amazing success with all 3 squads. So that right there is your meta setup. Now that we've gone through and discussed what your squads can or should look like, we're going to take a look at some season specifics. And season specific things meaning tactic cards and protector field, as well as some season specific builds. As we are in season 5, we do have 3 builds right here. As you can see, the tanker bar, the pilot bar, and the missileer bar. These won't unlock until your Caffeine Institute hits level 60, so we're about another week or so away from that. These will give boosts and provide leveling boosts as well. When you level them up, they'll give you a bit more boost, just like any other building will do. Another temporary power buff would be your protectors, and how the protectors work is percentage of whatever troop dies ends up here and becomes a protector. They add resistance, they add march power. However, if you run out of level 10 protectors, it'll move down to using the level 9s, level 8s, level 7s, whatever you killed. So in short, you want to be trying to only be sending out your highest level troops so that they can become your protectors. A little side note before we continue here, as you guys probably have noticed, I stopped the recording a little bit earlier, a few hours before reset. I had to do a few things, came back. It is now build day. I sped my missile building here, and it did give me a 0.02 boost on my main squad because of Adam. From my 4th squad, I finally ticked over to 50.04. So if you guys are interested in seeing that power buff, go back earlier in the video, look at the my missile squad compared now or then and now, and you guys can see how much that actually boosted my squad's power. Moving on to tactic cards. So tactic cards is a very complex yet very simple bit of boost, and basically all you're going to do is you go find your profession hall. You're going to click on that and click on your tactic cards. I do have 23 1-in-1 to open, so we're going to go ahead and just open them up and then see what we get. Nothing great. I'm going to open up the blue one. Again, nothing great. And we're going to open up the purple one. And nothing great. I think I already have it. So I've been getting this question quite a few times in the last 24 hours actually. Which one should I get? Which one should I upgrade? What should I do? All that kind of stuff. Early season towards mid-season, even later, this Purgator Monster Slayer is really good. It gives you damage reduction from monsters, and this is a PvE card, your player versus enemy card. Enhancing will increase the effects, ascending will increase the effects as well. Now, as we move towards the middle of the season, we're still early season, but as we move towards the middle of the season, your best bet is to upgrade or ascertain PvP cards. This, in my opinion, is the best PvP card the game offers. It's the Battle Streak Morale Boost, providing you a PvP attacking HP, attack, and defense by varying percentages depending on the ascension level, as well as giving your squads a morale boost. And they call it a battle streak in the sense that when you're attacking a base, I'm going to attack my ult here. You're going to march that base. Now that this squad is out of your base, essentially what the battle streak means is if I go and attack this base, 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 that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 march. That's 7 marches, and so essentially it's going to boost it 7 times. There is a cap, of course, but a battle streak meaning every attack that you hit where you don't come home in between attacks. So the longer your streak, the more the buff. So for this one here, it's for each victory. So if I attack that base, I get 4.8%. If I go and attack the base again, that's a doubling, so that's 9.6, and so on and so forth until I max at 14.4. These numbers do increase once you enhance them, but again, that requires a lot of profession XP. And then ascending is kind of luck unless you get a choice card, which I already used to ascend this card earlier today. In terms of these ones here, if you are running a mixed squad like I am, where I have 4 tanks and 1 missile, the best card in the game is 4+1. 4+1 essentially means 4 heroes of the same type plus 1 of a different type will grant your entire squad the full troop type bonus. So with this card enabled, my squad of 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks and 1 missile hero will actually grant me the deploy 5 heroes of the same troop type buff. So now I get to use the benefits of Adam's skills on my first squad while also maintaining the 5 troop type integrity. That, in my opinion, is the best card if you are planning to run a mixed squad like I am. And it is maxed out at level 7, and the best thing that you can do to dismantle is sort by N to SSR. We've hit quick select. Yeah, if you hit quick select, it will automatically select all the green and blues. Get rid of those, you're never going to use them. Firm. Now, what cards to keep, what cards to lose? PvP cards I typically keep. Some PvE cards I'll keep, but for the most part, tactic cards are keep what you need or you think you'll need. I kept this one because it's a defending hero attack and HP, whereas the one I have is hero defense and reduced damage when town countered. Again, I don't really know which one is better per se, but I like the offsetting. So if my tank squad is getting attacked by a heli, this one here will reduce the countered effects. PvP damage, defense, whatever, defending hero attack, reducing PvP wound rates, and that's this effect that you kind of look at as well as in PV. That this basic effect here is what this card is about. Random stats are just random stats, but this one here I gain 7.5% bonus for attack, defense, and HP in PvE. So against zombies, I keep all the +1 cards, level 1 +1, because what happens is if this here was a level 7 +1, it is technically a level 8 card, which goes beyond the cap, as level 7 is the highest. Each card has a different random effect for the most part, so you can have 1, 2, 3 of the same card. Actually, not that one. This one here. you get a reduction in penalty by 4%, squad gains 0.4 and up to a maximum of 2. Same thing here, 4.42. These are the same. The difference is the random stats. Now, based on those random stats, you might want to keep one card over the other. For the combat cards, it's typically going to be something about PvP attack, PvP attacking squad, PvP defending squad, PvP city or durability damage. So it'd be like attacking a base would do 750 damage to that base as opposed to 500. And then things like reduction of damage when countered, things like that. These are all great to keep. You can pick and choose which random stats you like. Same thing with the resource cards. These resource cards are you'll get two rare tactic cards packs for 3 squad victories in PvP, and then it's this random stat here. So this one here gives you more XP for killing zombies. I recommend trying to look out for these cards that increase your profession XP. It's the fastest way to gain XP. It's maybe not the fastest, but any advantage you can take to get something finite is a great option. And then just things like coin output, and then I believe I have a triple coin output card, construction speed up time, and I might have burned my other card, which was like a research reduction or whatever. But these ones here, you can keep them based on what their random stats are, and those cards will be filled down below here only. So this is your combat section, this is your resource section, and then these are your gold sections only. These bottom ones here, pick and choose what you want based on the random stats. These ones up here, pick and choose based on the base stats, and then you can sort of filter out, because there'll be multiple different 4+1 cards with different random stats. So pick the one with the better random stat that you like. But essentially, for the attacking cards, the combat cards rather, you want to pick based on the base stats, and then the resource cards you want to be picking based on the random stats. These two here, in my opinion, are the best cards in the game. Once you get into more PvP and you don't want to be using a PvE card, the other one would be this one here, the Garrison morale boost. So your defensive squad gets HP attack defense boosts, as well as morale boost for garrisons. There's a lot that you can talk about with tactic cards, but essentially all you have to remember is top cards look at the top effect, bottom cards look at the bottom effects, and then the mid cards go with my recommendation, and you will be more successful in PvP and PvE depending on the cards you use. Now that we have all the information, it is time to test it out. And what better way to test it out than through the wanted boss? Wanted boss appears at reset up until 1 hour of the next reset, and this can get very complicated very fast. The reason that this becomes complicated is because of the wanted boss names. The tank boss is a boss that I believe, hold on, we have missile boss today, right? Missile boss, or not missile boss, but what do we call it? I call it the missile boss because missile vehicles dealing more damage. Tank boss, tank does more damage. Aircraft boss, aircraft does more damage. But what that means is that this wanted boss is a aircraft type troop type heroes. So if we go to my battle records and we take a look at this screen here, scroll down to the bottom, I attacked with missiles because it's all aircraft. So if you're attacking hold on a second, this one here, go to D7, this is your tank squad, this is your tank boss. You want to be taking your tanks to go up against the missiles. and then subsequently the aircraft boss is all tanks, so you want to be sending tanks or aircrafts counter. Now this is actually a great screen that we can look at here. I'll explain to you a little bit about putting everything that we know together. So this is what I have found to be the best lineup for the missile for the tank boss, and that's running Marshall, Swift, Marshall, and your best missile up front, your strongest missile up front, with with Stetman, Mason, and Kim in the back line. The order does matter, and I will show you a picture here now of how that should look. But essentially, this one here, your tanks will counter it, but because we don't have a high damage dealing tank like another one, your best bet is to use another missile, because then it's equal to equal, and that has provided me with the best scores for the tank boss. Moving on now to the missile boss. Again, it's all aircraft, and because I have a very decent missile squad that I worked through on the off season, I put my two best up front, Swift and Tesla up front, with Fiona, Adam, and McGregor in the back. I don't really feel the need to swap these two out, as this has provided me a better damage output than having Marshall and Kim up front with Swift, Tesla, and Fiona in the back by almost 3 or 4 billion. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time. So this is the one that I'm running. If you don't have a good missile, then yes, you can definitely run Marshall and Kim here instead, and you will still have a really high score, highest potential score for your setup. Moving on to the aircraft boss. Again, it's all tanks, and my aircraft squads aren't the greatest, so I keep it with sort of the earlier game mechanics of how to attack this, where I'll just do the tanks, because tank and tank is equal. There's no plus or minus percentage there. It's just straight up. And then I'll throw my best aircraft hero again for that little bit of 50% boost. And again, this has been what has worked best for me, and for most people, especially my alliance who run a tank main. This will be really good because your tank squad's already really strong, and because there's no debuff, they will keep their power. And then Diva being sort of the second strongest attack hero that most people have, because that's early game stuff. Throw that in there for the 50%. Marshall, Diva in the front, Stetman, Mason, and Kim in the back line. And these are the same, all three of these lineups, all three of these are the same lineups that I give to every single person every single day who asks, and they come back and tell me, oh, I just got an extra 2 million, I just got an extra 4 million, I just got the next goal. The reason we want to do this in this fashion is because the tank boss doesn't attack you, therefore you don't need any defensive heroes. But what you want to do is you want to maximize your damage output so that you can hit these milestone markers. As you can see here, I've hit all the way from the 1 million damage all the way up to the 18 billion damage. Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's late. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, all the way up to there. And then these are all the rewards that I've gotten throughout my time of attacking the wanted boss. Am I the strongest? No, there's many players out there who are stronger than me, but I study the game way too much, and this is sort of the goal that you want to work towards, is hitting milestone markers like these almost every time the boss comes back around, which would be like every 4 days, right? You'll have your tank boss, and then you'll have your missile boss, and your aircraft boss, and then goes back tank boss, whatever. So then each time it comes around, you want to be upping that damage. And these lineups as well, these lineups here are the same lineups I would use for the rampage bosses that show up at your capital. If our bosses didn't die so early, I would have been in the top of the leaderboard, but I didn't get a chance to hit the missile boss, and I still came, I think, third. But this will be the best way for you to, again, hit those high damage ceilings and subsequently give you higher tier rewards. With all of that being said, folks, if you've learned something here today, great. That is my only goal of doing these videos. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. If you guys are in my alliance, please ask me in AC, DM me. I have noticed so many more people asking questions in AC, and I fucking love it, because chances are if you have that question, someone else does as well. A little tip here, guys. If you hit that subscribe button, you actually gain a little bit more power as well. And that brings us to the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It's actually really fun to make this video because I do love talking about how to get stronger. But remember, guys, it's not about perfection, it's about effort. So go out there and kill it. Catch you in the next one.